The following is an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.
Hey Calgary, I'm Kevin Chorney. It's March 13th, and this is Calgary Now.
Wheels are in motion, but the gears just aren't catching on. Calgary's Cycle Track Network proposal is currently ping-ponging through the different stages of approval by City Council, and interested parties of all viewpoints are glued to the latest developments. In 2011, councillors approved the cycling strategy, and the proposed Cycle Track Network is one of the first major components of that strategy. The city has done its homework, consulting with the public and businesses in the downtown core, researching the best ideas and figuring out what will work best for our city. Now, it's up to the people we elected last fall. Inside and outside the city chambers, it seems there are just as many people who are eagerly anticipating the cycle tracks being built as there are those who hope the plans don't come to fruition. It's a debate that has clear battle lines drawn, but is it the best way for Calgary to continue on its path as a world-class city?
All right, so the city's cycle strategy was sure to be controversial in car-centric Calgary, although perhaps we didn't expect the near vitriol that we've seen. More specifically, there was a polarizing divide regarding the city center cycle track network. Now, if you're not hip to the lingo, a cycle track is essentially a separate, physically divided bike lane along a city street. Catch is, it occupies a lane originally designed for automobiles, hence the great debate now being waged in the media, between bloggers, and over Twitter. I'm moments away from sitting down with my guest to gain some clarity on the issue. If you've got a bone to pick, get at us on Twitter at Calgary Now Show with your 2 cents. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
If you have problems with reading, writing, or math, chances are you can only go so far. When you're ready to take the next step, look under Learn in the Yellow Pages.
Hey Calgary, thanks for joining us. Tonight we have Augustin Lauro, the Ward 8 representative from Bike Calgary, and Joe Olson, manager of the Livable Streets Division from the City of Calgary. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Real quick to start things off, Augustin, tell me about your role with Bike Calgary.
Yeah, Bike Calgary is a grassroots organization, volunteer run, and the way we've got part of our group set up is to have a representative for each ward in the city. So it corresponds to the city wards, like we have councillors on council. Exactly, yeah. So my role as Ward 8 representative is to work with both with community associations within my ward, as well as liaise with Evan Woolley, Councillor Evan Woolley, who's the councillor in Ward 8.
So you've been busy lately for sure. I appreciate you making the time.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you. Joe, what do you do with
Kevin.
the city exactly? Yeah, hey, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Well, Kevin, I've managed this Livable Streets division since October last year. It's a very passionate group. We do long-range planning for our cycle network and pedestrian network. We do community traffic calming projects. We also do travel option called travel demand management type work. It's a very, very busy, very passionate group. Very exciting to manage them.
I would think in a city like Calgary, they would have to be a very passionate group. Thanks for making the time, guys. I do appreciate it. I'll start with you, Joe, real quick. There's been a lot of hyperbole surrounding the city cycle strategy. What exactly, just to be clear, what is the mandate put forth by that strategy?
Sure. So take it back a little bit. We really need to go back to the Calgary Transportation Plan that Council approved back in 2009 that said, you know, we need to focus on more sustainable modes of transportation. We focus a lot on the car. Let's start looking at pedestrians, cyclists, and what have you. So then in 2011, a cycle strategy was completed by administration and approved by Council. It laid out 50 actions. It got some money approved by Council. Yeah. It got 3 positions to actually target enacting those actions. There was a notice of motion actually at the time when the strategy was approved that said, you know, downtown, let's look at a cycle track network. And so what we're doing right now is really delivering on that action. I think it was Councillor Carra, Alderman Carra at the time, that put the notice of motion forward. And that's why we're here today.
Yeah, and it's a good progression. I'm glad that we're having this discussion. It's been huge in social media. Obviously, a lot to talk about tonight. Real quick, if you would, Augustin, what's the role as far as Bike Calgary is concerned with the plan put forth by the city?
What's our role as Bike Calgary?
Yeah, what's your role to, I guess, it's to educate people, a bit of lobbyists, a bit of both?
Right, yeah. So through Bike Calgary, we'll look to do advocacy work. So liaising with, as I mentioned, with our friends at the city government.
Yeah.
And also education. We do, for example, programs for urban cycling skills. So people come take our courses about once a month, depending on demand, and we help them feel comfortable riding around the city and sort of getting used to that, because a lot of people are sometimes a little bit nervous to get out there and bike. Yeah, so our role through the cycle track discussion here has been, we've been on what you would call an advisory committee for that, giving our input sort of on behalf of our members. We have 1,500 members in this city.
So you're working directly with the city, or are you working with council?
We're working with city staff, so
Okay.
there's an advisory committee through this project, much like there is, I think, for many projects where the city solicits engagement from the community, and we've been there giving our input sort of on behalf of our members.
Probably a very valuable liaison, I would think. Yeah, definitely. Now, Calgary's definitely a car-centric city. There's no question about that. Traffic congestion has been a major complaint of citizens for some time. I mean, really, are we all at all surprised that cycle accessibility has, seemingly forged such a clear, it's almost ideological divide? I mean, frankly, personally, I'm not. Yourself, are you surprised what we're seeing?
Yes and no. Calgary is by no means the first city around the world or even in North America to broach this subject. And I think everywhere, because it's kind of a new idea, it gets people thinking about transportation planning. It gets people thinking about, okay, how do I get around this city? How does my family get around this city? And it's a new idea. So we have to make sure to remember that it is basically about transportation, everybody getting around.
Yeah, and options, isn't it? I mean, at the bottom end of the day, it's about having options.
That's absolutely right, Kevin. The Calgary Transportation Plan really spells that out. It's about travel options. It's not just about the car. The car is still going to be a very important part of our lives. We always consider that in our designs. Part of the issue, I think, too, is that for 40, 50 years, our road design standards have never really accommodated the cyclist. It's accommodated the car. It's accommodated to some degree the pedestrians, but never the bikes. And so the only way to really get the bikes in a lot of times is to retrofit them or utilize a lane and stuff like that.
I would imagine people involved in your group are happy to see progress that's been made. I imagine they want a little bit more, maybe a bit quicker. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, I mean, in any group you're going to have a range of opinions, from people that say that it's not enough to people that say that it's just right to people that say that it's too much, too fast, too soon, too slow, too anything. But I think, basically overall what we're hearing from our members at Bike Calgary is that this is a great move forward. And it is about increasing options. It's people that want to get around with their families, with their friends, with their kids, that want to be able to get around their neighborhood. People like myself who live in Beltline, and I basically just want to go and get my groceries on my bike and be able to, if I need to go to the hardware store, I can get in a car and go pick up stuff at the hardware store. If I want to go to the grocery store, I can get there by bike. If I want to go
in a safe manner, of course, which I think a lot of people do. In a safe manner.
In a safe manner, in a safe and comfortable manner, absolutely, yeah.
Which you think as a cyclist should be your right. I mean, obviously a lot of people still, that one's up for debate. According to city literature, on average 12,000 daily trips are made, so those are round trips into the city center. That's a 35% increase since 2006, which is fairly substantial. Those numbers, though, have they plateaued as of late? I mean, were we busy maybe 5-6 years ago, or are we still seeing that trend of those numbers increasing?
Yeah, no, we definitely see the trend increasing, Kevin. And the 35%, of course, is over that number of years.
Yes.
Even facilities like the 7th Street cycle track that's put in, is helping that trend increase even more. What we hope is if we can change that modal split into the core a little bit higher, you may see a doubling of those numbers in a few years' time.
Winter commutes, though, is a topic of much discussion as of late. Well, personally, Augustin, you ride your bike when it's minus 30?
Nope.
Nope. Can't blame a guy.
Yeah, minus 30 is pretty darn cold.
Yeah.
But I rode my bike here today, and it's not that warm, and definitely through the winter as well. Many folks at my